Hello, welcome everybody in my next class. So today I am going to discuss about the Trade Unions Act 1926, which is a very important act. Although it's a very old act, but it's a very important act in the field of industrial relations. And so far as the trade unions are concerned or workers' interests are concerned, this act is very important. So as you can see on the slide that this act was passed in the year 1926. So today we are going to discuss about the provisions of this act and also about trade unions in general. So what was the purpose of this act? First of all, the purpose of the act. The first purpose of this act, or the main purpose of this act, was the registration of trade unions so that they might acquire a legal and corporate status. It means that before registration of this trade unions, they were not having any type of legal and corporate status, and they were facing different type of consequences in terms of punishment by the government and by the employers also. So this is why after passing of this act, they got certain types of rights. Now coming to the definition of the trade union. Under this act, they have given a very broad definition of trade unions. And as per the section 2(4) of the 2(h) of the Trade Unions Act 1926, a trade union is any combination, whether temporary or permanent, which are formed primarily for the purpose of regulating the relation between workmen and employers, between workmen and workmen, or between employers and employers, or for imposing restrictive conditions on the conduct of any trade or business, and includes any federation of two or more trade unions. So it's a very comprehensive definition. But this act provides registration of the trade union, and workers can get themselves registered under this act by prescribing the you can say abiding by the provisions of the act and as prescribed under the rules and regulations also. Now coming to the functions of trade union, which happens across the world, not only in India. What are the functions of trade union? Or you can say workers union: to improve working and living condition of workers, to secure for workers fair wage, to promote welfare, to provide for educational, cultural and recreational facilities of different types, and not only that, to safeguard job and improve conditions of service, and to do collective bargaining on behalf of workers for different employment related issues. Now it includes each and everything which is the important for a worker or for a group of workers, whether it's salary, whether it's welfare, whether it's social security, whether it's condition of work, or whether it's the behavior by the managers. So you cannot limit that there are only 5 functions, 10 functions or 20 functions. And now coming to the trade unions in India, there are so many trade unions in India, and they are at the plant level, they are at the industry level, they are at the regional level, and the central level there is the federation and confederation of trade unions. It means that most of the trade unions in India are affiliated to one of these confederation of trade unions, which are very important nowadays. So like INTUC, Indian National Trade Union Congress, which is affiliated to Congress Party; AITUC, the oldest out of these four, it was established in the year 1920, All India Trade Union Congress, and which is affiliated to Communist Party of India. C2, Center of Indian Trade Union Congress, which is affiliated to Communist Party of India Marxist, and then BMS, Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, affiliated to Bharatiya Janata Party. All these four are the major trade union confederation which are working across our country. Now, what are the provisions of the Trade Unions Act that I was discussing? So we'll be discussing about different provisions of the act. So under section 4 to 9, it talks about how registration of the trade unions takes place, what are the methods and mode. So coming to mode of registration under section 4.1, any 7 or more members of a trade union may apply for registration. All the members applying for registration must subscribe their names to the rules of the trade union. So because when you are going to apply for, you have also to submit a rule book of the trade unions or rules of the trade union. So all the members who are applying for registration, they have to put their signature also there with their all details. Now coming to the second application for registration, there is a prescribed system of registration of trade union, and the application of registration should be made to the registrar for trade union, who is a senior officer of the government, mostly from, and not mostly, in all cases from the labor department, and he or she is appointed by the appropriate government. And when the application is made for registration, that should contain the name, occupation and address of the members of the trade union, the name of the trade union and the address and its head office, where the trade union would be working from, the titles, names, ages, address and occupations of office bearers of the trade union. So there are two types of members. One are the ordinary members, and there are certain other members who are doing the work on behalf of the entire trade union, because each and every member of the trade unions cannot do the work. So the president, the vice president, the treasurer, the general secretary, joint secretary, these are working on behalf of the trade unions. They are called the office bearers of the trade union. So the titles, names, ages, and age and address of the occupation of the office bearers of the trade union should be mentioned. And why specifically age has been mentioned? Because any person who is below the age of 18 years cannot become the office bearer of a trade union. He or she can become the member of the trade union, because everybody knows that any person above the age of 14 years can be appointed as a worker in a factory, but only adults can become a office bearer. Now coming to the contents of the copy of rules. I already told you, with the application you have to submit a copy of the rule book also, or the rules of the trade union also. So the application should also be accompanied with a copy of the rules of the trade union, and that should contain the name of the trade union, the whole of the object for which the trade union has been established. It means that whether the objects are according to our constitution or it is unconstitutional, the whole of the purpose for which the general fund of the trade union shall be applicable, for what purposes you are going to spend the money of the general fund, the payment of a subscription by members of the trade union which shall not be less than 1 rupee for rural workers, 3 rupees for other organized workers, and 12 rupees per annum for workers in any other case. It's a very small amount, and this is why most of the trade unions in India, their financial condition is very bad. Now, before registration, the registrar can call for further particulars from the trade union if he is not satisfied with the details they have submitted. So when the application for registration is filed before the registrar, he has got the powers to call further particulars regarding the trade union. Now, if he is satisfied, then under section 8 and 9, he go for registration of the trade union. If all the requirements of the act have been complied with, the registrar of trade unions shall register the trade union and then will issue a certificate of registration which can be exhibited in the office of the trade union, and that will be a proof that the trade union has been registered. So a trade union which is registered as per provisions under the Trade Unions Act 1926 has the certificate of registration, is called registered trade union. So a registered trade union is only such a trade union which is registered under the Trade Unions Act 1926. But there is a provision of cancellation of trade union also under section 10. A certificate of registration of trade union may be withdrawn or cancelled by the registrar, first, on the application of the trade union to be verified in such manners as may be prescribed, or if the registrar is satisfied that the certificate has been obtained by fraud or mistake, or that the trade union has ceased to exist, or has willfully and after notice from the registrar contravened any provisions of the act. But before cancellation of the registration, a proper notice has to be given to the concerned trade union, and even after that, if it is cancelled, the trade union has got a right to appeal to the higher authority. Now, what are the duties and liabilities of a registered trade union? There are different types of duties and liabilities. And now, change of registered office. If you want to change the registered office of the organization, that is your trade union, the notice of change must be given to the registrar in writing within 14 days. This is your duty and this is your liability also. Then what are the objects on which the general fund may be spent? The general funds of a registered trade union can be spent only on specific objects which are related to the benefit of the worker. That cannot be used for the political purpose. For that, you have to constitute a separate political fund. Under section 16, a registered trade union may constitute a separate fund from which payments may be made for the promotion of the civic and political interest of its members. Now, what is the proportion of office bearers be connected with the industry? So suppose I am talking about a trade union in the cement industry or textile industry, not less than 1/2 of the total number of the office bearers of every registered trade union shall be persons actually engaged or employed in an industry with which the trade union is connected. What does it mean? It simply means that at least 50% of the members office bearers should be from the same industry. They cannot be from other industry, or they cannot be some other outsiders. It means that more after this 50%, other persons can be anybody, political party leaders, MP, MLA, employer, anybody. But at least 50% of the office bearer, I'm not talking about ordinary members, they can be outsiders also. So this is a very significant provision. Whether it's good or bad, we are not going to discuss about this at this time. We will be discussing it later on when we are discussing about details about trade unions in India. Now coming to the change of name. Sometimes the trade unions wants to change the name of the trade union. Then what can they do? Any registered trade union may, with the consent of not less than 2/3 of the total number of its members and subject to the provision of section 25, change its name. And these details have been given in section 25. So it is also allowed provided proper process has been followed. Then sometimes some of the trade unions try to you can say increase their strength by joining hands. For that they can go for amalgamation. So there is a provision of amalgamation also. Any two or more registered trade unions may become amalgamated together as one trade unions, provided that the votes of at least one half of the members of each or every such trade union entitled to vote are recorded, and that at least 60% of the votes recorded are in favor of the proposal. So both these two conditions should be there, that at least one half of the members of every trade union should be voting, and out of that 60% should be recording the vote in favor of the proposal. So the trade unions are amalgamated into one by whatsoever name they favor it, and they have to intimate it to the registrar, and they have to take the approval from the registrar also. Now they have to submit their returns. It is also their duty and responsibility that they have to submit their returns. Every registered trade union is required by section 28 to send annually to the registrar on or before a prescribed date a general audited statement of all receipts and expenditure during the year ending 21st day of December. So that has to be naturally audited by a competent CA, and that has to be submitted to the registrar, and the registrar is going to check whether the return is right or whether the return is wrong. And in case of any doubt, he may also ask further documents to be submitted. All the accounts, books and list of members thereof is open to inspection by any office bearer or member of the trade union at such times as may be provided of in the rules. Under the rule books of the trade union, you should make the provision that if some member of the trade union is interested to know that where the money are being spent, and is interested to go through the account books, he should be allowed to go. Not only that person, even any government authority can be allowed to check that. Now I already told you there are two types of funds under the Trade Unions Act: general funds and the separate funds, which is known as political funds. Now coming to the general fund, section 15 of the Act provides certain restraints against expenditure out of the general funds of the registered trade union. It means that the money which you have got from the workers as a contribution, that can be utilized only for the benefit of the workers. It lays down that the general fund of a registered trade union shall not be spent on any other objects than the following. And what are the objects upon which the money can be spent? The payment of the salaries, allowances and expenses to the office bearers of the trade union, the payment of expenses for the administration of the trade union including audit of accounts and general funds, the allowances and compensation of members for loss arising out of the trade union's activities, and the provision of education, social or religious benefit for members or for the dependents of members. So one thing is quite clear. The money from the general funds can be only utilized for the benefit of the trade union or for the welfare of the workers. It cannot be utilized for the political purposes like taking part in the elections or supporting any political parties, etc. For that, there is a provision of political funds under the section 16. Section 16 of the Trade Unions Act has made suitable provisions for the constitution of a separate fund for political purposes, and this act empowers a registered trade union to constitute a separate fund from contributions separately levied for that fund. So it means that the money can be separately collected, but it is voluntary here. It is voluntary. It means that you cannot force somebody to contribute. In case of general fund, it is not voluntary. The members have to give the money. But here you can take the money from outside, or if some workers want to give, can give, but you cannot force them. Out of this fund, payments may be made for the promotion of political interest of its members in order to promote the political objects. but the general fund should not be utilized for political purposes. That money should be kept separate. So this was the thing. One thing very important here is that I was talking about office bearer. You should keep one thing in mind, that office bearer of a trade union should always be adult. He should be above 18 years of age. A ordinary trade union members can be more than 14 years of age, but an office bearer should always be above 18 years of age, because it is a very responsible task. In my next lecture, I will be further discussing about trade union activities and the history of trade unions in India. Thank you very much for attending my lecture. See you all in my next lecture. Thank you very much.